Hello and good morning to our third session about the Randstad onboarding. So before proceeding with the topics, I would like to ask you guys, do you have any questions to me? Any questions based on Randstad project and what we have seen up to now? Okay, I guess no. So without any further ado, I will share my screen and we will start going through my notes. So some things that we didn't manage to cover yesterday, but it is extremely important. It's about the account setup. So these two things we didn't manage to cover, and also the job viewer. This is the third thing that I'm going to cover today. So what is the account setup? I need to log in. Randstad are using single sign-on everywhere. So if you have your Randstad account, you should be able to see all of these. So we have Amazon Web Services account setup. In here, we have notes, how things work. And you see that there are two notations, DF, called Digital Factory, and BUX only. Why do we have these two notations? At the beginning, a couple of years ago, the project was added to Digital Factory account. So Randstad, as a big client, they have multiple accounts in Amazon Web Services, and we had to operate with two accounts, with Digital Factory account and with BUX account. In here, you could see account and roles. And the good thing is that for probably from less than a couple of weeks, we are no longer using the Digital Factory account. Randstad decided to migrate all the stuff from Digital Factory to BUX. And how do you operate with the data that you see here? Well, if you open this URL, SSC OPS PRD for Amazon Web Services console, you have to provide your password. You have to add the account ID. By the way, this account ID is in the documentation, so don't worry. And these are the steps how to set up the accounts. So once I log in, I need to add my multi-factor authentication. So you could decide whether and what MFA device to use, but this is a requirement from the client. So every time when you log in here, you need to have an MFA device. And once you log in, you see here I have row history. So on the right. And if I click switch row, I could provide account, row, and display name. So actually, this is what you need to do. So in that case, you have to get account, set it in here, then get the row, set it in here, and switch row. I have already done this for my account. So I'll directly go to switch row. How do you read those rows? Well, that's important stuff. You see we have ROL, which stands for row. Then we have BUX, which is the account name. Then we have DTA. So DTA actually is DTA is dev acceptance, dev test acceptance, dev test acceptance. This is Randstad terminology. And if you have to compare DTA to what we have, we as branches in the apps, we have dev, test, and PPR. So dev is dev in this case, test is test, and then we have acceptance, which is PPR branch for us. This is what DTA stands for. And then we have administrators. So you have administrator access to this account. We are using this administrator access only for viewing resources. We are not making any modifications. All the infra stuff is handled by the infra team, and the infra team are using cloud formations, and this is automated. So they have a repository, they push the changes to the repository, and then they deploy them. This is a requirement from the client. So although you have administrator access, you are only using this access for monitoring, not for altering and making adjustments in any of the resources. Then we have a second account, which is for production. You see that these account IDs are different. And the row here is, again, row, BUX, PRD, which stands for production, and then administrators. For the sake of this video, I will go and switch my row to row, BUX, DTA administrators, which means that with this row, I should have access to the whole infra setup for dev, test, and PPR environments across all opcos in this region. Why I'm saying in this region? Because if you continue checking this document, you will see that you have to install AWS CLI. Based on that AWS CLI, you have access key and secret access keys, where these are standing and how you could generate them. Well, if you go and click switch back, then if you go to security credentials, inside the security credentials, you have the, just confirm, yeah, I'm recording. You have the ability to generate first the MFA device assigned by our clients, but then you have access keys. So you just click create access key and get that access key. So you have an access key and you have a secret access key, which is these two things, access key ID and secret access key ID. And then you need to copy the rest inside your AWS credentials. Having this AWS allows you to actually perform different commands. So just for example, you see here it says, hey AWS, with the profile BUX DTA in the S3 service, please list the buckets. So if I open a new tab, paste this, now it will ask me for confirmation, like, hey, could you add your MFA, so the two-factor authentication. And when I add and set the MFA code, the two-factor authentication code, I actually received the list of all the buckets that we have in this account, the S3 buckets. So this means that I have my account set up correctly. And regarding the SSH keys, inside the SSH keys, they are here. Usually, these are connected to production. What does it mean connected to production? I will just show you what's the idea, because when you provide me with your public SSH key, we request an account creation for you, and we say, hey guys, I would like to have access to a certain code commit repositories. In this case, you need access to all the code commit repositories inside BUX account. And as I have production administrator access, I could open my account. And then when I go to security credentials, I see the SSH public keys. So what will happen is like, you send me your public key, then Scrum Master from our side will go through the creation process for you, and we will send you back such SSH key ID like this. And where is this stored? If I open my SSH config, you see that I have the key, and then I have identity file, which is actually the reference to the key. So the user is what you receive, and this user is here. All of this is described inside the document that I will share after with you. It's AWS account setup, but I wanted to make sure that I have shown you how this works. Another thing that's important, it's which regions are we using. So as you know, in Amazon, there are different regions, and Randstad are using different regions. Most of the websites that we are currently hosting and we are currently maintaining are hosted in Europe or EU West 1, this one. But then we also have others, like, for example, we're using Singapore, US East. We also have China. For China, we have even a specific account. Just to make a small note, Amazon Web Services in China are different than the rest of the Amazon Web Services across the world because of different regulations which come on a country level. That's why for China, some of the services are not behaving like the services in the other countries and other regions. That's why Randstad have a specific account only for China. And it's worth to mention that actually we have Randstad China, and we have created the website, and it's up and running. The only difference that you need to know about Randstad China is that in Randstad China, there is no static generation. So actually, this is Drupal that's being returning the responses for us. And the reason for that is because due to limitations when it comes to Amazon Web Services. For example, static generation and that build process is not sufficient to work in China region. That's why we are using directly Drupal, and this is the only opco using the RXP platform that is only Drupal. Okay, and then based on each of the regions, I will just show you. We are using mainly several services. One of them is S3. This is about buckets and file storage. In S3, we have a specific naming convention, how you could know what is for our account and what is not for our account. Well, we have BX, PRD2, and then we have a dash. And you see a lot of buckets like this. How do you read this? Well, the naming convention is the following. Hey, this is S3 bucket. This is related to the BUX account. This is related to the production environment. This is BX because we are in the EU West 1 region. Then this is PRD2 instance. And then we have the opco code. So if I open any of these, you see that we have, for example, for young talents, we have the website, we have user files, we have redirect, and we have mail attachments. And it's similar for the rest of them. So I will switch to the DTA environment and again open the S3 and show you an opcode that we already used. For in this case, I will be using the Randstad Co UK, but on the DTA environment, the actual Co UK CMS lives in here. So it's UK CMS, dev2, Randstad, -BUX. Then we have basic out. I will share the basic out with you. It's Randstad web and then the password. This basic out is actually everywhere. And here we have Drupal. So how it works. We have opco code. Then we have reference whether this is CMS or no. Then we have reference to the environment. Then we have reference to whether this is dev test acceptance or production. And then we have the domain, which is randstad-bux.com. So you see that this is UK, but if I say open Belgium and add the basic out, the correct basic out. Okay, the time as a charm. Yes. And this will load the Belgium CMS for me. See, this is Belgium. And you could do the same if you switch different opco codes. Another important stuff that you need to remember is all dev test acceptance or all DTA environments are in EU West region. So inside EU West region, in the DTA environment, I have all opcos. So if I type UK and then dash, that's one of the easiest ways to find it. You see all the S3 buckets regarding UK. And you could add, for example, dev2 to see dev. That's just crazy interface, but yeah, like this. Adding dev2, I see all the buckets for dev. If I say test2, I see all the buckets for test. If I add PPR2, I see all the buckets for PPR. And that's really easy to be used because if you know the environment and you know the opco code, you could easily see all the buckets in this case. And you might be wondering why we have dev2 and etc. Well, the reason for having this is due to, again, naming conventions and adjustments. So the client wanted to have a specific naming convention and wanted to make changes several times. That's why, for example, in BX account or DTA account, we always have dev2. And also in here, you might be wondering why it's not simply CMS, but it's CMS1. Well, the reason, again, behind that is due to changes required by the client. They wanted to test different stuff, like some of them will be CMS, the other ones were CMS1. That's why CMS1 was left and CMS was deprecated. And last but not least, you see that with UK CMS, I have access to Drupal. So if I say user login, it will load the Drupal for me. But if I go one step back and instead of CMS, say static, this will open the static version for me. So this is the static version, and this is valid for all of the websites. So in any of these, instead of CMS, if I want to see the static, I simply add static. Then I need to write the correct basic out, and this is static. So you need to remember that from the domain, if it has CMS, this is Drupal. If it has static, this is the static version. Okay. So we have covered how domains are built, and I could continue in the walkthrough in Amazon Web Services. So you see, Randstad have a lot of data in here, and for each of the websites, we have several buckets. So one of them is the website. The website, this is where the static version lives. So for each opco, we have dash website bucket. In there, we have current folder, and in the current folder, you see actually everything. So you see the whole stuff and all the URLs. So as I'm currently checking UK website, you could see that we have 18/10-dist. So if I go here and say 1810 test, this will open a page for me. How it works? Well, as this is the static version, it will try to find the corresponding folder in the S3 bucket and then load for you the static HTML. We also have some files you could see which are specific, like summary results, protected pages, logos, listing regions, menu app redirects, and app internationalization. These are all stuff which are used by different functionalities. So, for example, we have logic, which is rendering the menu in the apps. We have app redirects, which are specific redirects. Then we have listing regions. Listing regions is something related to job listing. The idea is that if you open a specific job listing, so this means in the Jobs app, and the editors have the opportunity, if you provide a specific search, you see here how it was. I received test title listing tab. So the idea of the listing regions is actually when you access a specific job search, you get extra text and different components which are attached to your regular job listings. So if I click one step back, the regular listing is without this. It doesn't have tabs, but if I try to search for specialism in IT jobs, then I have tabs. So the information for those listing regions are actually stored here. Then we have logos. Logos is different stuff. This was the thing that I showed you with Randstad Belgium yesterday, when you try to open a listing and then you had different logos. You see, today, this one, these type of logos. And also we have other stuff like app redirects, which I will explain shortly, and some translations. But what you need to remember, if it's like an underscore, this is specific, not to be indexed, and the rest is just a normal content. This is how it works. Then if you go one step back to the buckets, we have user files. So for RXP Classic, if there are any files that we need to store, these files are actually stored in user files, and then in the user we have the unique identifier of the user, and in that unique identifier we store any file. So usually this is the CV file. Then we have SQS ATS backup. What you need to know is that We have a queue system. What's the idea of that queue system? When you apply for a job or when you create an account, we need to send your data to the applicant tracking system of the OPCO, to the back office of the OPCO, of the operational country. And usually these services, which should accept the data, are not really stable. That's why we have a queue. So every time when we try to send data from RXP web, we have a queue, and this queue is making sure that if their service is down, we won't lose the data. And this bucket is used to storing that files. The next thing that you could see is redirects. So we have a redirect bucket. The idea of the redirect bucket is a normal behavior with cloud frontends, Amazon Web Services, and S3. The idea is that when you try to open a specific URL, like this one, let's see what will happen. You see this is UK redirect. So I go here, open the file, and I should be redirected somewhere. And I am redirected. How does it work? Well, it will CloudFront will automatically check here, and then if I open the file, in the file there is this AMZ metadata BOX redirect, which is this one. And that's why when you try to open the URL, it will redirect you here. How you could debug this? Well, if I perform this one step back, and if I go into the console, and if I say curl -v, what happens is I get the address here, and I have 401 unauthorized, which is expected. I get 401 because of the basic out. That's why. So how to bypass this? If you want to test something from the CLI, in order for me to bypass this, I need to make sure that I'm passing the correct basic out to the URL. And how this is done? Well, usually it's like in authorizations, we have basic out, and I'm just opening Postman because I am lazy and I don't want to write it. That's why I'll automatically get this header authorization stuff like this. So if I try to access it, I could say this is the header authorization, and you see that now it works. What happened was like it tried to access. We have HTTP2, and then we received 301 redirect, and this is the custom header, and this is where we are going. So what you need to remember is that we have a redirect bucket, and this redirect bucket is responsible for actually making redirects, which are for the static version of the website. This is one of the reasons. Another redirects that we do have, and you saw when we were opening the website, those redirects were called app redirects. So as you could imagine, if I open again the diagram, we do have stuff which is static version, this one here in the diagram, and we just saw how the redirects work. But we also have apps which are on the right side. And these apps are not using S3. Actually, this is different ECS instances. So this is a separate app using JavaScript, and this app should also follow the redirects, should be able to make redirects. And how this is done, if you open any of the apps, let's say open jobs, download this, open it, let's see which, and let's see what do we have. Yeah, you see here we have jobs and then dash / mirror import. So if I go in the UK instance here and set this as URL like jobs import, I should be redirected to Google. You see? How does it work? Well, if I try to perform the same, so I say curl -v, try to do this, but also get the authorization header and provide it. What happens is now the app itself will read from this bucket, which is called current, and then we have app redirects, and we will make sure that this works. How do I know that the app will read it? Well, if you open any of the apps, in this case, I need to open the Jobs app. Let me open the Jobs app. In the Jobs app, we have server.js, and in the server.js here, we should have redirects, which is app redirects, and then we have get app redirects. And this get app redirects, how it works, it says read them from S3, and then we are providing the app redirect. And the app redirect is making middleware. And how does it make a middleware? Well, get app redirects will read the data and store it in a way that at each of them, the middleware, and when you try to access the app, it will check whether there is a redirect, and if there is a redirect, it will actually perform the redirect. So that's what we have for redirects. The next thing that we have is called mail attachments. How does it work? What's the purpose of mail attachments? These are usually file uploads. And why do you need file uploads, if you may wonder? Well, we need file uploads because, for example, if I go to ranch.co.uk and if I search for share your CV, how to write, register now, no, yeah, let's say register. In here, you see that we have an option to upload files. And you might wonder, okay, that's nothing that's hard. Yeah, but if you have static version, you need to have a place where you should be keeping those CV files. So in this case, what I'm doing is that when you click submit, you see how many requests were being done. And if I click fetch XHR, first we are using upload. In the upload, what we do is we say what will be the file path, and we are receiving a URL. You see the URL. It's the S3 bucket with the URL file attachments. What we are using here is something that's called S3 signed URL. S3 signed URL is a specific functionality where you go and tell the S3 service, hey, I'm planning to upload a file for you. Then S3 will return a specific URL, and you could upload the file only to this URL. But you could only upload the specific file that you sent. Then once this is done, S3 will return a link to your file. It looks like this. And if you check how the file works, when we click API get form file, this file is actually being uploaded for a limited amount of time. What does it mean, limited amount of time? Because as this is an area where you're not logged in, that's why data is not stored in your user files bucket. You might upload something and just stop the registration process or close the tab or anything else. That's why we as a platform should not keep these files for any longer. And that's why, for example, if you check the configurations, in the configuration of these, we have life cycles, and also we have time for which the data will be living. So what happens is, first, this bucket is not public. So if you try to access, in this case, the URL returned, you will get an error. Because usually what we do is we make it that, you see, I'm not allowed to get this. Because the file that is being returned is signed, and we are using JWT tokens. So first, through the signed URL, you could upload something only, and then through the signed URL, you get a get link, and this get link has a lifespan. I don't recall the exact lifespan, but it was like 5 minutes. So when you upload something, you'll be able to reuse it and send it to someone for 5 minutes, only if you know how this works. And the idea is that if you don't have something like this, people will abuse your service and upload files, and those files will be living there forever, etc. So that's why we have this specific bucket. In this specific mail attachment bucket is actually blocking public access. So this means that you won't be able to read it. And also this specific bucket data has everything removed. So this means that we have a lifespan rule, like here, you see, it expires. And this means that after a certain time, it will automatically delete all the files that you have in the UK mail attachments. So we have a two layer of security. One of them is you upload a file, you go somewhere. The most time that you could use that link is 5 minutes. And after that, Amazon Web Services will automatically remove all the files from that bucket. So what you need to remember is that this bucket is for public uploads, and it's safe to use it because we are not distributing it directly. So if you actually see this access column, you could see that objects can be public for the website, for the static, which is normal. User files are not public. The backup could be public. The redirect should be public because it's actually the redirects. And you see the mail attachments are not public. And the last thing is one specifics for UK, so I won't go into those details. I'll just show you another opcon. You see that, again, we have website, user files, redirects, and mail attachments. So this is about S3 and what we are using in S3. Another thing and another service that we are using quietly, it's called DynamoDB. In DynamoDB, this is an key value database provided by Amazon Web Services. This key value database, again, you could search using the same naming convention. So if you provide the same naming convention like before, environment and then opco code, you see all the resources related to that environment and opco code. In this case, you see we have components, configuration, DSR, form submissions, job awards, index, polls, save jobs, users, and user data. So I could switch to another opco, let's say Germany, and we have similar amount. If you switch to Austria, again, we have similar amount. So I will quickly just go through them. First of them, components. We have a lot of components in the CMS which are stored, and those components should be available in different places. So this is where this is stored. Then we have configurations. Configurations is stuff that you configure inside Drupal, but this configuration actually should be read by the apps. So if you have an application, and if you go back to the diagram, so this is that part when we read the encrypted data. The applications should be able to know this one. You see, it comes from Drupal, it's stored, and then read by the applications. The applications should have a way to get configurations, but not calling directly the CMS. So that's why we're storing them here, and we have different sections about it, like form settings, about privacy settings, about tracking settings, and etc. Next thing that we have in the list, it's called DSR. DSR is data access subject request. What you need to remember is that this is GDPR related, and there is a specific section for it. The next thing that we have is form and form submissions. And you could imagine, why do we have form and form submissions? Well, it's really simple. If I open any of the production websites, I'll go here again to the UK one. And when I click submit here, in the last session, we checked how it works. And how was it working? Well, when you are not recognized as bot, okay. And if I click on XHR, I see the submit, and I check that this is API form submit. And inside the request, we are providing the web form ID. So that's why we have form folder, form table. In the form table, we have different types like CMS and static version. And why do we have CMS and static version? Because if you are an editor creating a form or modifying a form in the CMS, you might want to test something that's only available in the CMS. That's why we have CMS and static configuration. And when you click publish, that's the time when the configurations will be transferred from the CMS to the static. what is the use case. For example, I'm an editor working on the contact us form. I want to see what will be the impact if I add extra phone number here. And if I add the phone number in Drupal, and if this was one-to-one direct migration, and if I haven't run static, and this is a form on the static page, then the actual service will be searching for an extra field, which the end user won't have. That's why we have this sync between CMS and static. And if you open any of the forms, you see the structure. We have form ID, etc. Then we have set of the fields. And inside the Forms app, which is a specific application for forms, we're actually validating all the rules. So you see we have something like Vorname, and Vorname is required, and this is the error. We have a title, and we know whether it's required or no. And the app is reading this configuration and actually returning the errors based on it. Another table that we have is called form submission. Form submission is a place where we actually store all the submission data. So the submission data consists of submission ID, which is unique, created time, form ID, and then all of the other fields. One of the best things about DynamoDB is that this is NoSQL database, which means that we don't have a structure. And when you have different forms with different IDs in the form submission, this will be spread to the right, and you have a different set of it, and it won't be an issue. It's really useful because you have one place for all the submissions. The next things, tables that we have is called award subscriber and award subscription. Award subscriber and award subscription, this is related to when you go search for a job and try to subscribe for a job. So in here. And on daily basis, you receive emails. So when you subscribe, you're an award subscriber, and we have here your data with the unique identifier. And the actual thing that you subscribe for, it's called award subscription, where we have frequency, languages, any filters, any names, and etc. So this is the owner, and one subscriber could have multiple subscriptions. Next thing that is called is deduplication folder. This is related to the process of moving jobs from Dova. If you remember, Dova is this, the dashboard, the common place where all operational countries publish their jobs. And the process of actually moving the jobs from Dova to our system, sometimes we need to check whether a certain job has already been added. That's why we have this deduplication table. Next one, we have polls and poll submissions. This is regarding the poll pop-up. As you could imagine, again, we have CMS and static versions, and also we have a place where we store the submissions. Next thing on the line is called Save Jobs. Save Jobs is functionality available for our users. The Save Jobs functionality works in a way that, for example, if I go to ranch.co.uk and click on the heart icon here, it says Save Jobs. So if I click on several jobs, let's say this one, and teaching assistant, then the account number is updated. And when I click on it, I have all of my saved jobs. So the sole idea of having this table is storing the information about saved jobs. And also we have procedures when you log in, whether this is transferred or whether you register, etc. But the idea is you could click some jobs that you would like to revisit after, and we need a place to store them, and this is stored inside DynamoDB. Yes?
I have a question.
Yes.
So I understand the logic behind saving stuff like the save jobs because you're saving information in the database, but I don't quite get the logic for the tables for saving forms, form submit. Isn't that a part of the React app for to handle forms?
No. Oh. The React app itself has some forms. I think I got your question, so I will show you. The React app, for example, like my Randstad, when you see register, etc., this is a form from the React app, so you don't need a configuration about that form. But we have forms which are created by the editor. It's like a form, form generator. Well, how does it work? So if I try to log in, let's see which opco I should use. Any of the opcos. Let's try to log into UK1. So if I try to log into UK and say the password, yes. So inside Drupal, we have content, and in the content, we have web forms. Those web forms are actually forms which you as an editor could create. So I could go here and click add web form and say Lubo onboarding form, and then I could click save on it. And once I have saved the form, I could see, do I need any confirmation title? Let's say confirmation message is Ninja. Do I need to store submissions or no? Do I need to send emails? Is this form custom, etc.? But I will click save only. Then once I have saved the form, I could go to build. And in build, I could start adding elements like I want to add, in this case, input field. So I could say this is name, provide your name. Then I could say that this is required and click and add another. And let's say that this is a second field, which is again mandatory, and you could add custom messages. This is really important field like this. So if I click save elements, and you see I have Lubo onboarding form. And if I have Lubo onboarding form, then this means that if I go to UK, in this case, and search for form, and I could say I have the form ID, which is this, and I have the origin, which in my case, it's only CMS. You already see the form that I created. But if I search for static, I don't have it. So this means that the form that I just created, I should be able to add this form to a page. Let me just add it to a page. So I go to add content, search for landing pages, and say Lubo onboarding landing page. And then I need to add header. Let's say header text. In that header text, I say title, test, etc. In the content, I go and add component. The component I want to add is called web form. The web form, I need to select Lubo onboarding form as a form. I could have custom title for this very specific component, and then subtitle. I want to save this as already published and save the page. And now you see we have a form. And when I click submit, this is really important field, etc. But this is actually stored inside Dynamo. And I could also make some submissions. So I could say, this is my name, this is my second field data, like this. When I click submit, I get the confirmation title and the message. And where is this stored? Well, this is stored actually in here. And I could make different searches. So I need to search based on form ID and language. So in my case, the form ID was, let me see, how do I find it again? Well, the easiest way for you guys to find what's the ID of the form is if you are on network tab, refresh the page because I already submitted. And when I try to submit again, I'm looking for the submit handler. I get 400 as a response, and we have the mapping of the errors. But I'm more interested into the web form ID, which is this. So if I go back and search for this and say that I'm searching for English, I have my submission. And this is the I have the capture response, how this worked, and I have the submission. That's why we have these forms. These forms are different forms than the regular React apps that have front end, because the regular React apps that have front end, the forms in there are specific and hard-coded. But forms which are dynamic, created by the editor, we handle them by a different application, Node.js application called Forms app. Is it clear now?
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay. And the next thing that I had to show you was related to user and user data. Well, user and user data are tables used by my Randstad. This is the app responsible for user profile and handling everything related to it. And in here, you see different users. For each of the users, again, we save the specific information. We don't save any login information. That's extremely important. We don't save passwords. Passwords and emails are living in a separate service created by Randstad, which is called IAM service, this one. And this is identity and access management service. They are using Cognito. This is AWS service under the hood, but they have some specifics. The reason of using identity and access management for Randstad is, again, if you want to have an account for the website, for that same account, with that same account, you could log in inside the mobile app or one of other different Randstad services. And don't mix your Randstad email with the account in my Randstad. These are different. They are not connected. Because with our Randstad emails, we are similar to our Randstad employees, so we could have access to all of their stuff. And if I go back to the DynamoDB tables, in the users, we have the user data, the user profiles, and then in the user data, we have different types like job applications and etc. So if you search by type, you see that we store here job applications. For some of the opcos, we are allowed to store this. For others, we are not storing this, and this is actually sent to their other ATS systems. So we have managed to cover with you S3 and Dynamo. Another extremely important service that we are using, it's called CloudFront. CloudFront is CDN that Amazon has. And for CloudFront, you could find a distribution for each opco and each environment. So let's say I'm interested in UK, and I see you have UK static, PPR test, dev, and so I will open dev2. You see the URL in the domain names. And when I click on it and go to behaviors, I could see all the rules. You need to remember that CloudFront behaviors have weight. So this means that it starts from 0 and then goes to the bottom. And when you try to open a specific URL, like let me open any URL that we have for UK, like our offices. And in our offices, I could open this one, and this is static. How does it know that this is static? CloudFront will receive this as URL, and it will try to match it starting from top to bottom. And the first thing that you could see here is if it starts with our offices, then we have a regular expression like, I don't care what you have, but you need to have an underscore, and then I don't care what you have after that. So this is this format here. Then try to find the resource inside the S3 website, the static. If it's not the case, let's say this is not the case, so I'm opening any other URL, it will go to the second one. Does employers is similar to /jobs and anything that's after it? No. If it was, it would go to the apps, in this case, jobs app. And then we have similar URLs like jobs, monster, my Randstad API, search API, etc., salary, my Randstad applications, workforce insights for articles, and all of the rest of the apps, and specific API services and endpoints. The last thing that you could see here is like, if you try to open SF3FS media, go to the media bucket, and if it doesn't fit any of these, then by default, try to find the URL in the S3 website. This is how CloudFront works. So actually, for each of these, you could see that when you click edit, we have extra settings like do we have redirects, which methods allowed, which do we have cache, and the one-page functions that we checked yesterday. Also, another important stuff is that for such URLs in CloudFront, we have whitelisting of cookies. So if you open the API root, you see that now in the API root, we support almost all HTTP methods. And also, we have whitelisted a specific cookies. Why do we need to whitelist cookies? CloudFront, by default, caches the response. And if you have a specific cookie or something that alters your request, then CloudFront needs to know whether he should take into consideration that cookie. By default, it strips all the cookies that you're passing to him from one endpoint to another if it's not part of this list. This means that if you're developing some new functionality and you need a specific cookie and you're calling from one app to another app, CloudFront will remove the cookie if it's not whitelisted. This is also due to security measurements. That's a really important lesson that you need to remember, because otherwise you might wonder why this is working locally and not working on the server. The reason is that CloudFront removes these cookies. And you already saw how CloudFront works. There is one extra thing, not only CloudFront. If I go to the data encryption diagram, you saw CloudFront and one-page. But for the apps, we have ALB, or Amazon Load Balancers. So if I search for load balancers, it will show me the available load balancers that we have. And if I remove the filter, because obviously it remembers, you see we have different load balancers, and there are a lot. So if I use the same thing like dev2 and then UK, I should be able to actually find a specific load balancer, which is for dev environment and UK. I see that this is deployed to 2 availability zones. And when I open the load balancer, I see different listeners. So the first listener is like, if you try to open the website without HTTPS, you will be redirected to the HTTPS version. This is how it works. And then in the HTTPS, we have 14 rules. How these rules work? Well, if I click on the link, it will open for me information for the rules, and these are the rules. And these rules are like, if you try to open core, install PHP, or update PHP, are not allowed. Rules usually work in a way that you have a domain, and then you have rules based on that domain. So for all of the apps, we have the rules listed in here. So it will work for you depending whether you're checking the CMS or the static version. So if you're checking the CMS, the load balancer will help you and do the magic. If you're checking the static, CloudFront will do the magic for you. That's how you could remember it. And also, if you have any new route, you should always remember that if it's added only in one of those places, the QA will return you bugs. Don't worry, we have infra team. Infra team is responsible for this. I'm trying to explain to you how it works so you have an idea. At least you have heard of it. That's why. Don't worry, you don't need to know all the specifics. It's too much information. I'm aware of it. Okay, so we saw how Dynamo, S3, CloudFront, and load balancer works. We need to check one extra service, which is called Elastic Container Service, or ECS. Where is this in the diagram? ECS are these clusters. What does it mean, a cluster in ECS? Well, if I open Elastic Container Service, you see I have Fargates, different clusters, and I will open the one for dev. Then in here, I have a list of a lot of services. As you could imagine, almost 300 services. In those services, I could perform different searches, like UK, open everything that's related to UK. If I type UK, I see everything related to UK and all the apps. Important thing for you guys, Amazon Web Services user interface is not that great. So sometimes when you type a certain stuff in here, and when you know that it's not only 2 or 3 items, let me try to find such a case. Yeah, you see in here we have 7 matches, and I don't have move. I don't have the 8 matches. No, let's see. Oh, they might have fixed it. Oh, doesn't matter. I'll tell you. So sometimes you won't see all the items. And if you don't see all the items, you could click here to the right, and it will show you a second page. This is a common bug in Amazon Web Services user interface because it's not showing everything at once. So that's why you might have to click here. So I'm searching for UK, and I could open any of the apps. Let's say I open Jobs app. Why I'm showing this to you? Because if you are a developer and if you have any issues with your app, in here you could see what's happening with the app. Do we have any CPU spikes? Do we have any memory utilization? But the things that we are mostly interested in is logs. So if you open the logs, you could see, are there any errors inside here? And you could filter and you could see everything that's happening. And that's really useful because if you have a bug or something else, inside these logs, you could check real time what's happening with the application. This is like the console that you have locally if you're running the app locally. That's the idea of this ECS service. Also, you could see that we have messages of type data sent to Splunk. Was it here? Let's see, 6 hours ago. Yeah, initializing Splunk environment variables. Splunk is a service that Randstad are using for logging, so everything that you see here is sent into Splunk. If this view doesn't work for you, you could always click View in CloudWatch, and in CloudWatch it will open a separate window only for this app, for this instance, for this opco, where you could see in more details what is happening. You see in here we have an error like window is not defined. So this is something that was an error, and you see when it actually happened. So it's an old one, but still it's an example how you could see and search and click, and you could copy the data that you need. So it's really helpful to know that you could see logs for all the apps that you might need. That's why we have load balancers, and that's why we use the Elastic Container Service. This is what the container service is about. So we covered this one. I need to show you one extra thing. It's called pipelines. Currently, in Slack, we do have different channels. And one of the channels that we have is called RXP Alarms. And I will add you to RXP Alarms. So you have already an idea. Okay, to do it. Okay. And so what's the idea of RXP Alarms? RXP Alarms is actually listening for all the pipelines. And if something fails, you could see it in here. And usually almost all the people are monitoring RXP Alarms. I'm monitoring RXP Alarms as well. And sometimes I go and say, hey guys, please fix this. And you have a link why it failed, which is extremely useful stuff. Another thing that you could be using is if you go to pipelines here, it will open the pipelines, called pipelines. And in the pipelines, you could see everything. So again, dev2 UK. If I add dev2 or the environment, I see all the pipelines related to a certain opco. I could see when it was last executed. For example, this one, someone deployed the CMS. This is the Drupal part 43 minutes ago. If you open any of the pipelines, what you might be interested in is actually what happens in the build phase. So when you click details, it will show you logs. And if there are any errors, you will be able to see the errors in here. That's another useful thing that you might know and need to know. And this is extremely useful, for example, for different parts. And you could see where the errors were. That's why we use pipelines. Okay, this was a really quick introduction of how infra works, what do we have from infra point of view, and how these things are connected. Do you have questions based on what I just described to you?
There were a lot of things for sure.
Okay, well, if there are no questions, I will continue to one extra thing, and that would be the end of today's session after I finish with that topic, because it's you also have access to KT folders. In those KT folders, we show how apps are running, etc. So as I receive all the SH keys from you guys, you will be provided with access, and my suggestion would be for you to start actually setting up the apps. So without any further ado, the thing I wanted to discuss with you was go into more details about DOVA. So DOVA, you see all the available jobs that are currently listed, and you could make different searches based on a country and etc. Why this is important? Well, let's pick a random country. Let's go for UK. Randstad.co UK. Currently, I see almost 5,800 jobs. So in this site, DOVA, I'll send the accounts here. After that, you could perform different requests like search, and in search or account, doesn't matter, they do the same things. You could choose environment. In this case, we are checking the production one. Then you could choose country. In this case, we are interested in United Kingdom. And then you have different companies. So it's a lot. How does it work? Well, usually you could check different accounts and you could get details about the accounts and some settings. And also you could see information about the import results. So how many items were important and how it worked. And in the search section, you could try to make a account, actually calculate them. So you see for Digby Morgan, we have 8. Then if you perform for Pareto, we have almost 300. So we are now on 400. No, not 400. Almost 400. Then we go to the next one. As a company, we have more. What you need to remember is that in Randstad, it's not only an operational country, but they have sub-companies inside that country. It's like you have the brand Randstad, but then you have sub-brands which are operating separately. And those sub-brands actually could have a lot of data in them. And this is how jobs are indexed. So we are actually calling this service, and then based on that, we are adding the details to our Elastic search. So if I open here, we are adding the details to the Elastic search here. This is this part. DOVA database, on the job indexer, reading the data, and direct to the Elastic search. Could I represent this to you and show it to you quickly? I will do my best to do it quickly in this time that we have left. So I'm interested in the job index as a repository. So I will clone this repository, then go to my computer and open the correct folder, then clone the repository. Okay, it seems that I already have it. That's good. Then open the repository, go the job index, see on which branch I am on dev, and pull the latest changes. So I have received some configurations. And when I pull the latest changes, then the next thing that I will do is on the job index, open the project. And as I am opening the project, I will again make sure that I have the latest changes, and then I will see, do I have the dependencies? No, I don't have the dependencies. So if I check the README, it says install. I have yarn, so I will use yarn. This will get all the packages for me that I need. And while I'm waiting for this, I will check this local job indexation file. So how does it work, the local job indexation file? Well, I have opco label. This is the operational country. Then I have Elasticsearch URL where jobs will be indexed. You see in here an Elasticsearch URL, which is one Amazon, one Elasticsearch index instance that we are using. And this is actually inside our Amazon. It's used mainly for local, but this is only available if you are behind VPN. So I would recommend to use your local instance. This is useful when you have to actually test something with a colleague. That's when this is useful. And then we will have an option, should we recreate the index? Who is the indexer? By default is Dova. And we set, do we have any more specifics that we would like to set? How do we know what are the specifics? Well, if you check config opcos, you say information about the different opco. In this case, I want to index UK jobs. And what are the source IDs? Source IDs here, you see how many are they, are actually the stuff that I was showing you as companies. Let's just confirm. So you could see we have 88 until 326, and we have 88, and we have, for example, 164. Do we have 164? Yes, we have it. Do we have 184? We have it. So these sub companies are listed as source IDs. And how do I know the country ID? Well, it's just the other select from here. If I click on it, I see the select IDs, and I know that I was interested in United Kingdom, which is 221. That's why we have 221. We have the language code. We say that we are indexing only in English, and this is what it will try to download for us. So I will check the local job indexation, say that the country is UK. I will leave the recreate index. I will try to index in this shared one. So if I search for jobs UK, I have 16 matches. Let's see whether we have an update. So I have managed to install it. I have also managed to run yarn install. So I could say, please run the local job indexation. And what happens now? It says recreate index is enabled. I'm running locally for UK. Jobs UK as an index exists, but I have created a new one, which is this. So if I search for this one, I don't have any matches. If I refresh and search for it, I already have a match. And if I search for jobs UK, you see now I have 17 items. But I know that the one that I just created is this. And it still has not that many data, but what is happening here, it will actually go through all the different companies. So it's going through the config file, and it's index data with this ID. So see here, I'm trying to index data, start date time of end of the year last year, and it will index all the jobs from end of the year last year. Now it will do the same for a different company, which is 342, this one. And it's indexing this data, then it's doing this for another one, 294, and etc., 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 and it will index everything. So now we are close to company ID 37. And this is actually downloading the data and storing that data inside this jobs UK. So this is what is actually happening. This is how I index jobs. And as I have indexed those jobs, I could leave it this to be working because it will continue indexing jobs. And I could use the rest of the time to do something, again, useful, which in my eyes would be to, if I open the Jobs app and try to run it directly with you, so you could see how I'm starting the application to work, because this is still indexing and we don't need to edit to index. It doesn't take much time, well, at least for Opcus that doesn't have many jobs. You need to be careful when you start working on the project if you have any task related to Opcus like Italy, Randstad.com, and etc., because these have a lot of jobs. And also there are some limits. And if you ask me how this works from infra point of view, we are using code build projects. I'll just show it. You don't need to remember everything, but in the code build projects, we have job index collectors, and in those job index collectors, for example, you could say Italy, let's say just job index collector, and then say Italy, and then search for cron. And this is how it works. And if you open it, you see when it was running. It's running once per day in the detail environment. In the build details, you could see that for and this is not valid for because it's only for the bigger ones, because sometimes it will take a lot of time to index everything. Inside the build triggers, you will see what kind of rules we have, and here it's cron, that's once per day. A slight reminder, you're not making any adjustments manually here. You're only using your access to check data, not making changes. So our indexer is still running. Then I could open the Randstad project locally and open the Buex app, jobs. I will open it in a new window. So I won't break the rest. It should be opened. Yeah, okay. And this is still indexing. So now I'm in the jobs app. How the jobs app? No, I'm not in the jobs app. I'm in the job indexer. And now I'm in the jobs app. So for the jobs app, what I will do is check on which branch I am. In this case, I have some changes that I was making, so I'll just remove them. Then I go to dev branch and pull the latest changes from dev branch. The next thing that I need to do is check the README file of it. And inside the README file, we have some information like run yarn install. So what I will do now is remove the node modules so you could see how it works. So I'm removing the node modules. You saw this finished, and it said I've deleted the old index. So currently you have a new one, and I have managed to index 5,000, almost 6,000 jobs. So we have managed to index all the jobs for UK. And as we have managed to index all the jobs for UK, this means that I don't need the job indexer app anymore. I need only the one that's for jobs. So I will run yarn install, but I won't run it inside the WebStorm because sometimes it's really slow. I will run this inside the CLI, and this will install all the packages for me. And then the next thing that I need to check is I need to build the team. So for front-end perspective, we have a command how to build the Orbit stuff. How do I know which is this command? Well, inside package.json, you see we have build Orbit. So I need to run yarn build Orbit once all the dependencies are installed. So currently we are waiting for them to be installed, and yarn build Orbit will actually build the team for me. WebStorm is finally recognizing what's happening, so I'm still waiting for it to index all the stuff. And my next steps would be yarn build orbit. I will run yarn build orbit, build dash orbit, and then I'll say opco label UK yarn dev, because I need to provide an opco label. So the actual app knows which opco like this I want to run. So still waiting for the packages to be downloaded. How and what kind of packages do we have? Well, if you check the package JSON, you see the scripts, but we also see dependencies. And without having your SH keys, you won't be able to install these, because you see that we are currently downloading the custom packages that we have built from code commit. So code commit is the equivalent of GitHub and GitLab in Amazon Web Services. And this is our client's code commit. So we actually need to have your SH key, so you have SH key access, and you will be able to run yarn install. By the way, important note, usually yarn install won't work the first time when you're trying to clone a repository using SSH. So the recommendation is first run git clone manually and then run yarn install. The reason for this issue is that yarn is not interactive. Yarn will not prompt a message like, hey, are you sure you want to clone from here? That's why the fix is first you run git clone in any repository that's remote. Your operating system will ask you, are you sure you want to clone this? You say yes, and then you could run yarn install. Otherwise, you'll be wondering why this is not working. I'm saying this out of experience. I have onboarded a lot of people on this project, and this is one of the most common things that we fix. So, guys, you saw that I have everything installed. The next thing that I will run, now I will run it inside the WebStorm, is yarn build orbit. This will build the front end for me. And something happened. What does it happen? Task list available. Working directory changed. Why? Task never defined. Okay, this is not working. But if I say opco label UK yarn dev, what will happen? I said, please start the configurations for UK, and I want to run the app for UK. How it will work, it will go and check the configurations inside the local environment, and here we have some portals, some IDs, and etc. And it will try to load the jobs. It's currently building. So at the end, we should receive a message that this is compiled and the server is running successfully. How the configs works? Well, we have opco-specific configurations, but also if you open it in here, we have some which are environment specifics. And in the environment specifics, we have stuff like ports and etc. So actually, this app is running on port 8090. So if I open localhost on 8090, I should be seeing something. So I'm prompt at the basic out, and this is the app. I'm already loading the app. And when I click job search, this is where the job items will be shown. But you see, we have an error in the console, and the error says get favorite jobs. I'm trying to load them. That's why I'm not loading for you. So the reason for not loading the get favorite jobs is that it's trying to load them from another app. So in order for me to run successfully this one, I need to have the other app running as well. So I need to open Buex app, my Randstad, check the branch, dev, git checkout dev, git pull origin dev. And as you could imagine, those apps are working really similar. So if I have to run opco_label UK yarn dev in the jobs app, I have to do the same in the my Randstad app. And the my Randstad app is actually running in a different port, which is 8070. And that's why if I click refresh, and if this app is up and running, it should try to load. And voila, we have app running locally. You have the header, you have the search, you have the jobs, and you could filter, and you could mimic the behavior that you have on the dev environment. So in here, let's see what's the error. It's missing some data, I guess. Yeah. What is the issue? Some of the recently viewed stuff. Okay, but this is something that could be checked. The idea is you saw how easily you could actually run an application. We have 5 minutes. Do you have any questions?
So the idea now is to download and run the apps on our site.
When you receive access, yes. Before that, please continue watching the videos that I send you, the knowledge transfer sessions. All of these are actually touching and defining all the stuff that I told you, but in way more details, because now I'm rushing through the different topics, trying just to tell you how the big picture works. And watching those videos will help you understand how to run the apps, what are the main issues, how these apps are built, and that would be beneficial for your work on the project. So until you have access, continue watching those videos. And if you have any questions, just ping me in the chat and I will be happy to answer.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you. Stopping the recording.